open the door and stop breathing. A body lies before you, wrapped in Christmas lights. Glitter smeared across the face, eyes gone. But no one screams, no one runs. They bow, they whisper, Mother God has ascended. This wasn't a forgotten cult in the woods. This was online, built through live streams, PayPal buttons, and bottles of silver, marketed as miracles. And the deeper you look, the more impossible it becomes to turn away. Because this is the story of Amy Carlson, Mother God, a corpse worshipped as divine, a shrine glowing with Christmas lights, and $330,000 that vanished overnight, leaving behind a nightmare no court could contain. Picture this: small town Kansas, mid-1970s. Amy Carlson's life looked ordinary. She sang in the choir, got good grades, and like a lot of kids, she dreamed of something bigger. But dreams cost money, and Amy didn't have it. College slipped away. Instead, she clocked in at McDonald's, worked her way into management. Dependable? Yes, but far from the future she imagined. Maybe you felt that same question creep in too. Is this really it? For Amy, that question didn't fade. It grew louder. And when the internet arrived, it offered her something she couldn't resist. She dove into forums like lightworkers.org, places where people swapped stories about cosmic missions, starships, and energy healing. To her, it wasn't just interesting, it was intoxicating. People listened. They validated her. They told her she wasn't just another single mom in Kansas. She was special. And then came Amaranth White Eagle. He didn't just say she mattered. He told her she was divine. That one promise rewrote her life. She left her husband, her kids, her job, everything familiar. The woman once flipping burgers for a paycheck was now calling herself Mother God. What started as late-night posts on a forum was about to spiral into one of the strangest cult stories the internet has ever seen. Once Amy left Kansas, she never came back. Online, she shed her old life and announced a new one. She was Mother God. Her claims? Beyond outrageous. She said she was a 19 billion-year-old being, reincarnated over 500 times, as Jesus, Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, even Marilyn Monroe. She insisted she remembered every one of those lives, right down to the crucifixion. And her helpers weren't angels or saints. They were celebrities. Robin Williams, she said, was actually the Archangel Zadkiel, whispering guidance from beyond. Whitney Houston and Rodney Dangerfield, part of her galactics. She even claimed Elvis Presley was her son in a past life. Sounds absurd, right? But that was the trick. She didn't build a brand new religion out of nowhere. She blended pop culture with conspiracy theories and wrapped them all in her own divine narrative. To someone already distrustful of government, medicine, and media, Amy wasn't a crank. She was the answer. By 2014, her group had a name, Love Has Won, and every day they went live, broadcasting to strangers, building a following that grew stronger with each stream. Unlike cults of the past, they didn't need compounds or communes. Their kingdom was built on broadband, followers, loyalty, devotion. It all came through a screen. Love Has Won wasn't just another fringe group. It was one of the first true digital cults, and its reach was only getting stronger. How do you turn ordinary people with jobs, families, homes, into disciples willing to surrender everything? Amy Carlson had a formula, and it followed the same 3 steps. seen in cults across history. Step 1. Isolation. New recruits were told to cut off their families, block old friends, ignore phone calls. The outside world became 3D, a corrupted reality they had to escape. To prove devotion, they handed over money, cars, even homes. Leaving wasn't just discouraged, it was made nearly impossible. Step 2. Exhaustion. Members were allowed maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. This wasn't neglect, it was strategy. Exhausted minds don't argue, they don't resist, they accept. With bodies drained, Amy's word became the only truth they could hold on to. Step 3. Dependency. Food, shelter, identity. Everything flowed through the cult. To lose faith was to lose family. To doubt was to risk exile. And every act of compliance, every dollar handed over, reinforced the prison of belief. It didn't stop at faith. Members worked long hours, selling products online, moderating live streams, pitching etheric surgery sessions for $88, even bottling and marketing colloidal silver as a cure-all. Some emptied savings, others maxed out credit cards, or begged family for money, funneling it all to Mother God. None of this was random. It was structured, intentional. In psychology, it's called thought reform, breaking down the self and rebuilding it in the leader's image. The result? Amy's followers didn't just obey, they worshipped. Her anger became sacred, her punishments became lessons, and her exhaustion of them became proof of love. The deeper they fell, the harder it was to imagine a life outside. The deeper someone went into love as one, the harsher it became. If Amy decided your energy was wrong, punishment followed. In May 2020, one member was stripped naked, left dehydrated and disoriented, wandering the wilderness alone. His crime? Not vibrating at the right frequency. Inside the house, the rules were just as brutal. 4 hours of sleep, endless labor, cooking for Mother God, moderating live streams, selling miracle cures. Every action became a test of loyalty. Money drained away just as quickly. Families reported, savings emptied, credit cards maxed, inheritances wired into the group's accounts. Complaints stacked up at the sheriff's office. Fraud, brainwashing, exploitation. But inside the cult, Amy reframed it all as devotion. And here's the disturbing part. The worse conditions grew, the more loyal her followers became. Psychologists call it dissonance reduction. When belief collides with reality, when you see your leader drunk, skeletal, her skin turning blue from silver poisoning, you don't admit you were wrong. You double down. You tell yourself the suffering is proof of the prophecy. That's exactly what happened here. Followers didn't see an emaciated, dying woman. They saw a goddess transitioning into ascension. The purple tint of her skin wasn't a warning. It was holy. Because when you've given up money, sleep, and family, the alternative is unthinkable. To admit you've destroyed your life for nothing is more painful than the suffering itself. By mid-2020, Love Has Won wanted more than live streams. They wanted a stage, a place to prove Mother God's power. They chose Hawaii, but the welcome was anything but divine. Amy declared herself the volcano goddess Pele. To her followers, it was revelation. To native Hawaiians, it was sacrilege. Locals surrounded the house the group had rented. They chanted prayers. They hurled eggs and rocks. Windows shattered. For days, protesters circled the property, demanding the cult leave. The standoff grew so intense, the mayor himself had to intervene. Publicly humiliated, Amy and her disciples fled the island in disgrace. Back on the mainland, the collapse accelerated. She could no longer stand. Movement was limited. Her voice thinned. To outsiders, it looked like medical decline. To her followers, it was proof, evidence she was ascending. According to some reports, Amy begged to go to a hospital. Her disciples refused. Doctors, they believed, would only interfere with her ascension. The goddess of healing couldn't walk, couldn't eat, could barely breathe. And yet, every symptom was twisted into prophecy. Her body was failing, but to those around her, it was becoming holy. April 2021. A hotel room in Oregon. Amy Carlson, Mother God, healer of the universe, was dying. Years of drinking, starvation, and the very silver she once preached as medicine had corroded her body from the inside out. Her hair was falling out. Her skin had turned a metallic shade of blue-purple. She could barely move. And then, she was gone. But to her followers, it wasn't death. It was ascension. They carried her body back to Colorado. Not to bury it, not to call for help, to worship it. They wrapped her in a sleeping bag, strung Christmas lights around her, smeared glitter across her face. Her eyes were missing. Children were in the house, just rooms away. For 2 weeks, they lived alongside her corpse, not in fear, in reverence, calling it a shrine. When police finally entered, they didn't find a miracle. They found horror, a mummified body glowing in Christmas lights, a goddess reduced to decay. And then came the autopsy. No cancer, no cosmic transition, just a blunt verdict: alcohol abuse, anorexia, silver poisoning. The woman, who had promised healing, had been destroyed by her own medicine. And even then, her followers refused to see failure. To them, it was proof. Mother God had transcended, because admitting the truth, that they'd given up their lives for nothing, was a reality too devastating to face. But horror doesn't always translate into justice. When police uncovered Amy Carlson's body in April 2021, the world finally saw what had been hidden behind live streams and PayPal links. 7 of her followers were arrested. The charges? Abuse of a corpse. They were also charged with child abuse because children had been inside the house, where Amy's body was displayed like a shrine. Prosecutors even considered upgrading the charges to tampering with a deceased human body. But within months, every charge was dropped. Not because the scene wasn't grotesque, but because proving intent in a courtroom is different than proving devotion in a cult. These weren't people acting out of malice. They were acting out of belief. To them, keeping a corpse strung with Christmas lights wasn't desecration. It was worship. And that grey area, where delusion becomes a legal shield, meant no one was held accountable. Meanwhile, the money vanished. Over $330,000 sat in group accounts under the name of Miguel Lamboy, Amy's most trusted lieutenant, the same man who reported her body. Soon after the arrests, Lamboy emptied the accounts and disappeared. He was never charged. A cult that promised eternal love and divine healing ended with a corpse, abandoned disciples, and hundreds of thousands of dollars gone without a trace. The shrine in Colorado made headlines around the world. But what came next was unusual. We didn't just hear about love has won. We saw it. Why? Because Amy Carlson had broadcast her life for years. Hour after hour of live streams. Her drinking, her proclamations, her punishments, her followers begging for donations, selling silver as medicine, offering etheric surgeries online. Most cults vanish into secrecy. Love Has Won left behind a digital library, and long before Amy's death, that archive was already attracting national attention. Dr. Phil aired her live streams in 2020. After her body was discovered, the coverage intensified. Dateline NBC ran a 2-hour special later that year, and by 2023, HBO released Love Has Won, the cult of Mother God, turning years of footage into a global story. Millions finally saw the unfiltered truth. Amy ranting, followers obeying, lives unraveling in real time. Survivors filled in what the footage couldn't show. Families described loved ones drained of savings, working to exhaustion, calling strangers brothers and sisters while ignoring their own children. One member recalled being told they could only sleep 4 hours a night. Another remembered being stripped naked and abandoned in the wilderness. The most haunting voices came from those final days. Members admitting Amy asked to go to a hospital and how they refused. They thought they were protecting her divine body. Instead, they sealed her fate. The glitter, the live streams, the jargon of ascension, all of it was a mask. Behind it was something brutally simple: exploitation, neglect, and people too deep in belief to see the difference. A woman from Kansas, once just a choir kid in small-town America, she became Mother God, a self-proclaimed savior who claimed to be Jesus, Cleopatra, and Marilyn Monroe, all rolled into one. She promised healing, ascension, eternal love. But the healer couldn't heal herself. She poisoned her body with silver, starved herself with belief, drank herself into oblivion, and when she died, her followers called it proof of divinity. That's the chilling truth. In a cult, failure becomes faith. Decay becomes transcendence. Even a glitter-covered corpse, strung with Christmas lights, can be reframed as salvation. And here's what should scare you. Love Has Won wasn't hidden in a jungle. It wasn't cut off in some compound. It was live streams, PayPal buttons, Facebook posts. It was digital. It was public. And it worked. Still think you'd never fall for it? Then answer this. Would you believe if a leader told you Elvis was her son in a past life? Would you believe if Robin Williams was said to be whispering divine orders from beyond? Would you believe that something toxic could be sold as salvation? Her followers did. They bet their lives on it. And if even poison can be sold as healing, if even death can be sold as ascension, what stories would you be willing to rationalize just to keep believing? Think about that. And if this story made you stop, even for a second, don't just scroll away. Hit the like button, drop a comment, share this with someone, because these aren't just cult stories, they're mirrors, showing how human vulnerability can be twisted, online and in plain sight.